Good morning, welcome to CATEX TV. My name is Frank Fortunato. Today is Friday, August 19th, 2016. If you want to follow us on Twitter, please go to CATEX TV. If you're following the developments of the American swimmers at the Olympics, it's like following a soap opera. It's an unfortunate situation, and we're not necessarily going to cover it, but it does bear reviewing. The catastrophic flood devastating Louisiana is now the worst natural disaster to strike the U.S. since Superstorm Sandy 4 years ago. This is according to the American Red Cross. This has been a big event here in the United States. Thousands of people in the state have lost everything they own. This is according to the Red Cross. The disaster is the worst to hit the American mainland since Superstorm Sandy, and we estimate it will cost at least $30 million, according to the Red Cross, a number which may grow as we learn more about the scope and magnitude of the devastation. The calamity struck last weekend very quickly and ferociously. In Livingston Parish, for example, more than 31 inches of rain fell in just 15 hours. 13 people have died across 5 parishes, and more rain is now forecast. The flood warnings right now in the Baton Rouge area, as well as in the river parishes, that are going to not expire until late this afternoon. The U.S. Coast Guard, the National Guard, and emergency responders have helped rescue more than 30,000 residents and 1,400 pets. To make matters worse, the heat indexes in the area could reach 106 degrees during late morning hours today. So it's a terrible situation down there, and it does not seem to be getting any better, I should say. Another terrible situation is the wildfire situation in California. One fire in particular, the so-called Blue Cut Fire in San Bernardino County, now threatens 35,000 buildings. The fire is now 22% contained. Yesterday it was 5% contained. However, it's already burned some 32,000 acres in the Cajun Pass area of California. It's spread through areas that have caused mandatory evacuation orders. Some 82,000 people have been forced to leave their homes. The U.S. Forest Service spokesman Bob Poole credited success to finally having enough resources to obtain at least the 22% containment. The existing containment lines run along the fire's southeast flank between the cities of Hesperia and Cajun. They ended up digging fire break lines with bulldozers. There's some 1,600 firefighters fighting the blaze. They're hampered by very low humidity, hot temperatures, and very dry conditions. It's not clear exactly when the evacuation order is going to be lifted for everybody. Some 5,000 residents were allowed to return yesterday. Insurance Australia Group reported a 7% year-on-year increase in profits, up to 1.18 billion Australian dollars for its 2015-2016 financial year. This took into account higher than expected natural peril claim costs following the storms on the east coast of Australia. Catastrophe losses were about 660 million Australian. They had allowed for 600 million Australian. And they also took losses from about 116 million from the East Coast storms, which were much higher than the 60 million they had estimated back in June. The company did produce an improvement in their bottom line as compared, for example, to QBE, which reported their numbers the day before yesterday, which showed a 46% decrease in profit. The company has a 20% quota share arrangement with Berkshire Hathaway. The executive said that Asia still continues to represent an important source of long-term growth for the company. Well, guess who arrived in the Crimea earlier today? Russian President Vladimir Putin has appeared there. He's going to convene a meeting of his Security Council right in the Crimea. He arrived in Sevastopol this morning, his first visit since 2015. During the visit, he's going to speak with officials in Crimea, which the Russians seized back in 2014 against the opposition of the Ukraine, the Americans, and the European Union. He's also making an appearance at a children's summer camp. His arrival escalates the worst confrontation between Russia and the Ukraine since the 2015 truce eased the violence between pro-Russian rebels and the Ukrainian military. The Ukrainian president says that the country expects to be invaded by Russia at any minute, and he has placed his military on high alert. The standoff comes less than a week before Ukraine's anniversary of its independence from the Soviet Union. Here's an interesting story coming from Bermuda, being put out by the Association of Bermuda Insurers and Reinsurers, which usually puts a deservedly rosy picture on what's going on in Bermuda. But they're saying that pressure on insurers and reinsurers' expenses and declining profitability will impede further employment growth in the sector in Bermuda. They also note that political risks in Bermuda, the United States, and the European Union are likely to present some challenges. The ABIR said that its member companies employed 1,534 people on the island, an increase of 21 from last year. Of those, 1,032 were Bermudians or spouses of Bermudians. The company revealed a direct contribution of $834 million to the Bermudian economy. $96 million of that was spent on construction, and $26 million was spent on travel and entertainment costs. The ABIR said that primary political risks outside Bermuda include increased regulatory restrictions on access to reinsurance markets as a result of protectionist policies in other jurisdictions, as well as changes in tax reporting standards. This is a long, festering problem that the Bermudians have had to face with the United States. And in London, miraculously, over this coming weekend, it seems as if there's going to be a 24-hour tube service. London is one of the few big cities around that does not have 24-hour subway service, but the so-called night tube is going to start today on just two tube lines, the Victoria and Central line. It's estimated that the annual economic benefit from the so-called night tube service is going to be about $101 million within the next 15 years, and it's going to create 2,200 new jobs. The start of 24-hour weekend service will help London catch up to other cities that already operate overnight, including New York and Berlin. Interestingly enough, the 24-hour tube service is going to serve the whole nighttime economy, including restaurant workers, theater goers, and people who work in hospitals, and anybody else who has jobs that require them to move around at night. Right now in London, it's a rush to catch that last tube. Once the service goes 24 hours, things will be much easier. That's the news for today. If we have any breaking news, we'll come back and tell you. Thank you for watching. Have a good weekend, and we'll see you on Monday.